This is a general overview of the Eclipse mobile add-on companion product for Epicor Eclipse. We will cover some of the basic navigation, logon, and features, and you'll see this is an extremely powerful and intuitive tool for use for your outside sales force. Just a quick mention of what's needed in order to run Eclipse Mobile. As mentioned before, most Eclipse implementations are a two-server system. You have the Red Hat Linux system that is the primary host for Eclipse and the Universe database. eTerm and Solar talk to that, and Eclipse Reports runs directly on that. Almost every companion product that you buy to go onto Eclipse usually runs on a second server that's running Windows, I believe normally 2012 R2, and they use some very interesting bits of translation to get the two to talk and pass information back and forth, and they use an IIS web server in most cases to handle all the webification. So Eclipse Mobile requires that in order for it to do its deal. You have to have on the IIS box, the Windows box, you've got to have an SSL certificate to get on there. Normally the machine is on a DMZ with some pretty robust firewalling on it, because of course this has to be accessible from the internet, because if this was only available on the internal network, then your mobile sales force wouldn't be able to access it very well. Having said that, architecturally, login is fairly simple. You open up any web browser. I haven't seen a web browser yet that this doesn't support. It's pretty good. And you put in your Eclipse user ID and password, and you go right in place. Of course, your host name is going to be unique for every company out there, so I don't know what yours is going to be. So contact your systems administrator before you attempt login. There are some authorization keys to enable Eclipse mobile access, but there's only 2 of them, and they're pretty easy to turn on. Once logged in, you have a pretty simple and intuitive interface. We'll go through all of the bits on here as we go through it. I have to say that out of the companion products that I've been exposed to, this is probably one of the most intuitive and well-written companion products I've come across, and it annoys me that it does not get used more often, and I think that's mainly because companies do not sit down with their sales force and really show them what this thing can do, and that's a terrible shame, because I think this thing is probably very well worth the money. Anyway, we'll start off by going through the cart functions in order to create a bid and turn it into a sale. So we start off by selecting the cart icon and type in as much as you can remember of an existing customer, hopefully, because this won't work otherwise, and do a search. You'll be presented with the return of the search results. In this case, we're going to go ahead and do a bid and then sale against the Eclipse test customer. If this is a product that the customer has ordered before, you can use the reorder pad to make life a little easier for you. Otherwise, you'll have to enter in part of the product nomenclature and do a search instead. Here's an example of the reorder pad with a couple of items that the customer has purchased prior. We can check mark the suggestions and carry it over, and that should preserve the pricing from the previous order and the quantities. If that's not appropriate, then go ahead and enter the new quantity and add it to the sales order. If the product is not on the reorder pad, then simply enter in the catalog number or part of the item description and hit search, and you'll be presented with a return list. Select the item you want from the search list, and in this case we're going to use the Eclipse test product. For some strange reason, this customer seems to like buying that product. The system will show you the product detailed information and availability in the various branches, and you can go ahead and select what quantities you want and go ahead and add that to the order. And here's our product added to the order. At this point, if you feel necessary, you can go ahead and add a comment or go ahead and change the pricing. Any wording that you see colored in blue usually is a link, allows you to click on it and do a change. So pricing is no different, provided you have the right authorizations in Eclipse to do so. You simply click on the price that's there and do the override, put in the price that you need, and hit enter, and it'll go ahead and make the adjustments. You have the ability to change views, so you can look at different pieces of information and make adjustments as necessary, keeping in mind that your views are controlled by your authorizations in Eclipse on your count, and depending on how your system is set up and what your authorizations are, your views will be different from system to system. Before completing the order, be sure to check the shipping information and adjust as necessary. By default, Eclipse Mobile has your orders as bids, so if you want to make this a for real order and not just leave it as a bid for your inside guys to finish, go ahead and change whatever is appropriate and change the shipping method if necessary. Bids, of course, do not commit stock. They're used for quotations, adjusting pricing, and checking availability. So once you've gone through all that process, you can go ahead and convert it into an order. Each system is going to have a different combination of order status changes and shipping methods. As with the order status, shipping methods are going to be different from system to system, so pick whatever is appropriate for your system. The default payment method in Eclipse Mobile is pay without credit card, and when the order is completed it would go on the customer's line of credit to be taken care of later, provided the customer has a line of credit, or else you're going to run into problems. You can certainly go ahead and take payment with a stored credit card or enter a credit card in. Keep in mind, in order for that function to work, you must also have purchased the enhancements module for the Element Vantiv credit card payment gateway in Eclipse. If you do not have that companion product, then that's not going to work. If you do have the Element Vantiv companion product and there is already a credit card stored, you can go ahead and select the drop down and select the stored credit card to go ahead and charge the order to. If you do have the Element Vantiv companion product but the card isn't stored yet, then go ahead and add a new credit card. Adding the card is a simple process, provided you have the credit card information. Enter in the card and the expiration date. Adjust the address information as necessary, and go ahead and select place order. This won't actually charge the card yet. This is just storing the information in the Vantiv system. Is mentioned in other videos, the Vantiv credit card payment gateway doesn't actually store the credit card information in Eclipse. It actually stores it in the Element Vantiv secure server system, and you put a token in Eclipse to allow you to get at that information and recharge to it. Once the Element Vantiv system has stored the credit card information for use, it'll send you back to the sales order in Eclipse Mobile, and now you'll see towards the bottom in payment information, you'll see that credit card having been added as a payment method to go ahead and process the order on. Go ahead and add whatever changes you need to do for PO number, ordered by, release number, and such. Enter your shipping instructions, order comments, and internal notes as necessary at this point if there are any. Make sure that the payment method that you're wanting, hopefully the credit card you just entered in, is selected as you want, and that you've got all your comments and instructions in place. At this point you go ahead and place order. As said before, this only at this point is when the credit card actually gets charged. What we did prior was just storing the credit card information to charge. At this point the order has been completed, so you may want to email a copy of the acknowledgement to the customer, since you're probably standing there at their site in front of them. Click on email, enter in the customer's email address and whatever message that you need to add, and when you click send, the customer will immediately receive an email with your email address as the sender, with a PDF of the acknowledgement out of the system. Keep in mind, for this part to work, you must also have the companion product for Eclipse outbound email, but that's fairly standard. One of the great strengths with Eclipse is that it tracks virtually everything that's done in it or to it and who did it. And this of course is no exception here. So the order log, which you can access through Eclipse Mobile, through Solar and through eTerm, is a great tool for if there's questions about who did what or when. You can go ahead and look in that and see if any changes or modifications were done after the fact. This is very, very handy when things don't go quite like you expect. And here's an example of an acknowledgement emailed out of the system and sent via PDF to the customer. For a routine reorder, you could use the reorder pad. It's essentially the same process that we just went through, but it's a little bit quicker if it's items that the customers already ordered previously, the quantities are already established, and the prices are already established. Reordering products is the same process that we just went through with the shopping cart, so same here. Now that we're finished dealing with sales orders, let us review the advanced search function. Use the advanced search function to access pretty much any of the information that you would normally need out of the Eclipse system. It's pretty robust and pretty much touches anything that an outside salesman would require. In this example, we're going to go ahead and do a search against the customer A1 for any bill to or job ship tos that they might have. So here's our return list of selections, and we're going to go ahead and select A1 Electric Newbury Park Library job or ship to. The General Information tab is going to give us, of course, general information on shipping, contact, phone numbers, names, email addresses. Yes, a lot of this information can be edited and added to, provided your account has the proper authorizations in the system. The overview is going to give you an AR inquiry on the job, and it's going to give you all the basic information on the totals, the billing, the status of the payments, all very good, useful information for a salesman to know. Eclipse has some basic CRM functions built into it, so you can, in activities, add notes and reminders and some type of pipeline to help you manage the job effectively and notify you of the next steps that you might need to do. Adding an activity is straightforward. As you can see, there are drop downs here as to what type of activity and information that's required, and some indication of whether or not that information has been added in. These additional functions can be customized according to control record settings. If you need some customizations, talk to your system administrator, and it's a very quick and easy process to make these small changes. And finally, the Trends tab gives you a nice simple bar graph which gives you a nice visual indication of whether or not the job is ramping up, slowing down, or is stopped completely and needs to be closed out and completed. The advanced search on contact will access the Eclipse contact database that of course is also accessible through eTerm and Solar, and allows you to do lookups on the contact information there, which is very handy when you're out in the field. Of course, this is only useful if people actually put information in and maintain it. A lot of companies seem to be not very good at doing that, and therefore really limits the usability of this tool. So I would highly recommend that you do put contact information in, and you do fuss at other people to put contact information, because if that guy you need to talk to is actually just a phone number in someone else's personal email box, it doesn't do anyone a lot of good. So here's an example of a contact record, both displayed in Eclipse Mobile, and of course the same record and the same information also displayed in Solar. So it is the same information and is editable and accessible from either interface. Selecting Order from Advanced Search and putting in the sales order number in question and selecting Search is going to give you direct access to the sales orders so you can review what's been done to it. And here's an example of the sales order that we had just completed earlier in this presentation. Selecting jobs will give you access to the information in Job Bid Management. Depending on your company, you may or may not use this section. Do not get it confused with ship tos, which are referred to as jobs. That's actually pulled from the customer search. This job bid management tool, even though it's fairly simple, it's a pretty handy little tool when it's used to communicate job status and quote status information between the quotes and project management people and the outside sales force without doing a whole lot of telephone tag. And as a bit of a cutesy cute feature, if you click on the address in the job bid management, it'll automatically pull up Google Maps and you can actually see the job in Google Maps. Searching on vendors is going to give you the vendor contact information if necessary. As with everything, it's only as useful as the people who put information in it and maintain it. And here's an example of vendor information pulled up from the search. Now that we've completed the advanced search functions, let's look at products. Products is kind of redundant because it basically does the same thing that you could do in advanced search, but it's a little bit quicker since it's just product specific. Go ahead and enter a catalog number or some part of description information or UPC code information and search on it. If the system found a match, it'll present you with a return list. In this case, we're going to select the very first one on the list, Leviton 5601-2T. As we saw in the shopping cart, here we have the basic product information from the product file and some idea of availability in the different branches. If you'll see there on the right hand corner a little arrow, and if we select that one, the information returned in this screen gives us some idea of availability, movement, and forecasting of the product, which might give us some indication as to whether or not we want to make that a stockable product depending on the customer's needs. A final note on the product search, keep in mind where you see price, that's not actually your cost. What you're seeing is more likely the list price or the column 3 price, just for reference purposes. And that completes products, so for our next thing we'll look at the activity queue. Here we see the CRM activity queue in both the Eclipse mobile interface and the Solar interface. It's the same information coming from the same place, just presented in two different interfaces. One of the greatest strengths of the CRM activities is being able to set and schedule a follow-up, and also to delegate that follow-up to someone else as necessary, so you can kind of hand this off to the next person in the chain. As mentioned before, there are a couple of control records that determine what you have for activities that you can select and form questions to fill in, which are useful for everybody and especially management, of course. These control maintenance records are very easy for the system administrator to add and modify as necessary. And that completes the activity queue. Now for the dashboard. The dashboard is a simple but pretty effective tool. As you can see, it provides you, if it's available, information on open orders and bids to jog your memory and to push things through the pipe if they get clogged. And it gives you a nice listing of your customers, and you can do a quick overview of what's going on with them. And of course, it gives you access to your opportunity queue that you've hopefully entered information in your CRM activities, and so this will show up as well. Now that we're done with the dashboard, let us move on to reports. Here's an example of your report queue both in the Solar interface and in the web order entry. As you can see, it shows the same things. Eclipse, for anyone that's used it for any period of time, knows it's extremely robust in the type of reports they can provide and its ability to schedule them and send them up. And of course, if they're on schedule, then they'll show up on your reports queue, but you may not be at your desk, but you want to take a look at the information anyway. So the web order entry Eclipse mobile interface gives you access to those reports while you're on the go. And you just select the report that you want to look at and click on it, and it will show up in a view mode on your web browser. One thing that's kind of odd about this, even though you can view it in the web browser, it provides no mechanism for actually downloading the report locally, and I'm not really sure why they did this. I assume they thought that you'd be doing this on a phone. The phone wouldn't really have a mechanism to make it worthwhile to download it. And now let us move on to Messages. Messages gives you Eclipse Mobile access to the Eclipse messaging system. Hopefully everyone knows that Eclipse has built into it it's more like a text messaging system than an email system, built right into it. And of course this is very, very handy, but only if you're logged into Eclipse. But since it's right there, most people are doing their jobs in Eclipse, it's going to pop up and warn you, and it's for priority stuff, it's better to use it that way, to use the Eclipse messaging system to jog people's memories, than to maybe sometimes put it in their email box and let it get jammed up with the 250 other messages that are in there. Anyway, so this gives you mobile access to that, and so you can send messages back and forth to other people that are logged into Eclipse. And here's the Eclipse messaging system in the Solar interface. As you can see, it's the same information, just presented differently. And as you can also see, for the most part, the only person that likes talking to me is the System Phantom. Sending messages is straightforward. You just type in as much as you can remember of someone's name in the to field, and it'll reconcile that to the right username, and then you type in your message and you click send. And as said, the messaging system works in all three of the Eclipse interfaces. So here it is in the Solar interface, and here's the same message again in the eTerm interface. And now on to settings. Settings is pretty simple because for the most part there really aren't any. You can change a couple icons, you can change the color, that's about it. This is such an easy interface, there's not really a whole lot of customizations necessary. And now for prospects. Adding prospects is dead simple, as you can see here. The only additional customizations your system might need is if management decides to have different customer types for your prospects. This is done by your system administrator using the control maintenance record that you see here. Otherwise, pretty intuitive. Although simple looking, this tool can be very useful to get a lot of pre-information populated in customer maintenance for your credit manager or your inside salesman to prepare to open a new job and to add the rest of the information necessary to establish the lines of credits, etc., etc., to start doing sales too. So this is a little bit more handy than just trying to send the information in email, because it's already started to create the customer record and customer maintenance for the credit department to start adding their bits to. Once you've added the prospect in Eclipse Mobile, you access it through your dashboard. It'll show up under My Customers, and this will allow you to add more information as it becomes available or correct anything. All of your prospects that you create and your assigned customers have the ability to create activities, CRM activities, to put in, and so you can schedule follow-ups, both you and delegate to someone else, to try and keep the lines of communication flowing and get those sweet sales. One of the small gotchas with creating a prospect in the back end in customer maintenance, where your credit manager often lives, is that prospect will show up under different tabs. So when they go to type in the information for the customer on the search list, it won't show up on the customer index, it shows up on the prospect index, and that may confuse someone who's not paying attention when they go to search the record. That will continue to be the case until the prospect flag is unchecked on that record during the process of converting it from a prospect into a for real customer. And now for our final topic, business summary. Branch summary will only appear and be available if you have the proper authorization levels, so if you don't see it, don't be too terribly concerned. If you are manager level, then odds are you probably do have it, and this is a handy tool to provide a quick daily snapshot of how your branches are doing. Keep in mind that the branch summary information that's presented is not going to be 100% accurate. It's more of a ballpark figure. The Eclipse system in many cases is not going to know your cost allocations or your payroll information to squeeze these things to 100% accuracy. But it still gives you a good general idea of how well you're doing from day to day, month to month. And this concludes our presentation on the Epicor Eclipse mobile enhancement product. I hope you have found it useful, and this will hopefully increase the usability of the product across the company. And as always, thank you, and I am not Scott Zahn.